And so this is something I've had to deliberately build as a portfolio in my professional life, in my business life, and now in the different things I do within the development sector, both for entrepreneurs, for governments, for people, and the list is endless. Why personal integrity? How does this add to our bottom line? Allow me to share with you the story of where we are at as a continent. And when I say as a continent, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the country you're currently in. We're almost 54, 55 diverse nations within this continent, which by far is sometimes a disadvantage of our individual stance. Let me explain. The collective GDP of the African continent is about $1.4 trillion. That is the GDP of America as a nation. I hope this did this mean anything to you? The collective GDP of the African nations, $1.4 trillion. That's the GDP of America as a nation. 54 nations, 1.4. One nation, 1.4. Do the maths. That means if we were to break that down into what each nation represented in terms of GDP or even per capita, you would find that singularly we are too small to compete comparatively or competitively with any nation in the world individually. Does this make sense? Omalewa, do you mind projecting the African dream?
Okay, I'll do that now.
It means that individually we are too small to compete comparatively, competitively at any level within the context of the African nation. And I may want to break this down into even different nations. Gambia, population of about 14 million people. Djibouti, almost that size or smaller. And I'm not talking about expanse of land. Now I'm talking about the capacity, the human capacity of the people within that space and how they are able to really contribute their own quota to the Africa we want to see and the Africa we currently live in. So you find that nations like this who genuinely want to enjoy the dividends of their independence from colonization will generally struggle because by themselves they're too small to compete against the giants from the West. I said all of this to say one particular statement. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. I said this particular statement to say this. As young Africans, the prerogative is on us today to begin to think unification. Unification. Because as governments, we are disadvantaged. As individuals, we are disadvantaged. Imagine the collective power the African passport would have if it was 54 nations coming together to put their power, their wealth, their minerals, literally, and their value as nations behind one singular passport. It would be the most formidable in the world. Picture that. That the world relates with us as Africa as opposed to relating with us as individual country. So together we are such a formidable force. The world knows it, the West knows it. I feel like sometimes we're the last people who understand the formidability of our unity or of our unification as a people. So somehow systems have been created within the context of the African continent to fight against our coming together as one, because together we are stronger than any force known to human existence. And that is why I want to cast a vision in your heart today before I go into my conversation. I call it the African dream, where there is no vision, literally people are not moving strategically towards an outcome. I love that Omalewa casted the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. I love that she shared what the collective goals of that agenda is. But I want this dream to rest in the heart of every African who is here today. Thankfully, this dream is translated into the 5 African languages we have, in Arabic, in Swahili, in French, and in Portuguese, then English. So after the conversation, I may share the 5 whole translations with Omalewa so that she can distribute within all different people within her network that are Africans. It's important that we as young Africans have a dream in our heart. Without a dream, we are grasping over everything and working towards nothing. And this is the dream I have for Africa. I have a dream that one day Africa will become one big nation that can compete comparatively with global economies, but this time as a superpower, harnessing our resources, both our natural resources, our mineral resources, our human resources, to produce immeasurable wealth stewarded by astute yet accountable leaders who can deliver an Africa where every African descendant is a treasure. This is the dream I have for that Africa. And that the collective formidability of our united force would help us stand at the table and dictate how the table should truly turn. Because, of course, you and I know that at least 60 to 70% of the global resources, the world's global resources, are in Africa, are from Africa. And so it means that with our unification, there's greater negotiating power, there's greater bargaining power at the table. And you're wondering why I'm telling you all of this. I'm going somewhere with this preamble, so that all of us as Africans will see that beyond being in government or not, you and I sit on resources that affect the future of generations, the future of generations to come. And the decisions we make today will have effects on the children of Africa we are raising in the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. It means, my dear brothers and sisters, that if we pay no attention to legacy, posterity will ask us questions. If we pay no attention to the future of the resources that we so gracefully sit upon today, posterity will ask us questions to say, when it was your turn, Africans at this age bracket, what did you do differently? What conversations did you chairman, and what initiatives did you put in motion to enable you make a difference from what our fathers in the past have made? And that's what brings us to the subject of integrity. And that's what brings us to the subject of integrity. A dictionary definition of integrity: conduct that conforms to an accepted standard of right and wrong. A conduct that conforms to an accepted standard of right and wrong. And then goes further to define personal integrity as the quality of being truthful and honest with yourself and with others, so that you can intentionally align your personal behaviors and actions to be aligned with your own values, your own principles, your own ethics. It's a lot of conversations here, but I want to narrow it down to this singular term. In this context, personal integrity is speaking to the sets of values, the sets of beliefs, the sets of standards that you hold there and determines the outcome or drives the outcome of your life. The sets of beliefs, standards, values that you hold there and determines the outcomes of your life. And so that would mean that as every Africans, every one of us from our different backgrounds, whether it's religious background or ethnic background, every single one of us have personal standards that we hold dearly. And these personal standards for the longest time have shaped our outcomes. They have shaped the kind of conversations we have, and they have shaped the kind of decisions we have made and continue to make. That would mean that a man who doesn't have an understanding of personal integrity has not created a personal value system such that from that place on to the next place where they are now able to interact with human beings at social level, at government level, at educational level, at family level, or even at religious level, a man or a woman who has not taken time to strengthen their personal value system, aka their personal integrity, when they get to those levels of interactions at any level, it will show that you are interacting with a man or a woman who isn't, for lack of a better word, who isn't grounded. And by grounded, I mean with foundations deep in something positive or something right. And that, my friends, is the root cause of the problems you and I are experiencing today. The Africa we want, the Africa we desire, is admirable, isn't it? It's inspirational. I dare say it is aspirational. Every single African listens to this and say, I wish we could truly walk into this. And for some people, it's too good to be true. They're like, oh, please keep dreaming. You're in La La Land. because it feels too good to be true for the Africa we have lived in for the longest time. And this is because we have a set of persons who do not care about personal integrity, let alone building value systems that allow them truly add, for lack of a better word, their own quota of growth and development based on personal integrity. So what does this mean for you today who is listening to me today? I feel like I may have, okay, I'm looking for the screen. Please pardon me. I'm trying to find my screen, the screen for my presentation.
Oh, okay.
Can you see me?
We see your screen.
And you see a picture on my screen, right?
Yes, we see a
So
picture.
how do I do that? I don't know how I got there.
Okay.
Oh boy. So that's the thing with tech and all the phones that have been created these days, all kinds of things happen. The idea was not to show you my screen. I don't know what happened.
Okay, you don't want to share your screen?
No, I wasn't going to share my screen. I don't even know how I got here.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Oh, God.
I'm going to stop it from here. You can go on.
Okay, fantastic. So I was saying, because we have humans who haven't understood what their own personal value systems are, when they get into rooms or conversations, whether at personal level, at private level, at government level, at religious level, at family level, they honestly simply can't contribute to the betterment or what you may call the development of a people because they haven't taken time in their own place to truly develop what is called personal integrity. Personal integrity shows up in different ways of our human endeavor. As basic as what you choose to stand for, what you choose to stand by at every point in time, is a pointer to your personal integrity quotient. And so, we are going to do a little exercise here for everyone who is here and who is going to listen later, just to calculate or have an idea of what your personal integrity quotient is. First question to ask yourself, what is your affinity to stand by what is right? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your affinity to stand by what is right? And as I'm asking these questions, I want you to be scoring yourself because at the end, we're going to do a sum total to give us an idea of what our quotient is. What's your affinity to stand by what is right? On a scale of 1 to 10, score yourself. Is it 1? 1 being the least, 10 being the highest. I want it to truly be practical so that every one of us will live here with something tangible enough to begin to action in our life as far as personal integrity. What's your affinity to stand by what is right on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. Question 2. How often are you willing to pick the right decision over the wrong decision? How often? Meaning, if you are faced with 5 decisions in a day, how often would you want to stand by the right thing? Out of the 5, will you choose 2 and then 3? Well, you can choose not to show integrity. Does this make sense? Does this question make sense? Do you understand it?
Absolutely.
Yes, we do.
On a scale of 1 to 10, again, how often would you choose or would you prefer or would you decide to stand by what is right in a situation where every day of your life you're faced with at least 5 different situations to stand by what is right? Would you choose 2 out of the 5, 3 out of the 5, 4 out of the 5, or 1 out of the 5? Score yourself. Here you can score it over 5. 3 representing you choose 3 times to stand by what is right out of the 5. And please be honest with yourself. I'm not going to mark your script. The idea is to give you a reflective result, something that you can look at and say, this is an indicator of what's going on in me, in my heart, in my thought. And that's what is creating the outcomes I currently see in terms of my integrity quotient. Integrity is not 90%. If it's not 100%, you don't have integrity. Yes. Integrity is the only thing that you cannot have 92% and still be a pass mark. No, 99% is not a pass mark for integrity. Because that 1% that is extra, I mean, the 1% gap within 99 and 100, that 1% could be one decision that will shape the life of 1 million children. Does this make sense?
Yes.
That small 1% that you think, oh, well, it's just 1%. I tried. It's not me that killed Jesus and all the different things we say in Africa. That 1% can be just a decision you will take in favor of yourself as opposed to 1 million children who will die of starvation. So would you consider that person someone with integrity, with personal integrity? Absolutely not. Even if they scored 99%. So integrity is the only thing that has 100% or nothing. It's either you have it or you don't have it. And so what this exercise will do is reveal you to you so that you go back home and do your homework. The more we have young Africans, both men and women alike, who haven't sat in properly into their offices as the men and women who are astute and accountable, we cannot deliver an Africa that we want. Every time a nation wants to build, they bring out the finest men with dedication, with integrity, accountability, with deep focus, who are strategic. All these different things, they gather together. And guess what? When they want to do stuff like that, they hold themselves to the highest level of accountability and integrity. Go and look at how China grew. Look at how America grew. Highest level of integrity. Because that's where they begin to build their systems, their processes, upon which everything within their continent or their nation will sit upon. But if everybody entered there and they were about their interest, I'm not saying there are no capitalist systems, and I'm not saying capitalist systems don't thrive or don't drive in revenue for nations. They exist. Right? But despite the fact that they exist, it is important to understand that with personal integrity, you are in a room with people, you are not thinking of literally stealing your way, cutting your way, sabotaging others because you want to be the one at the forefront. This, my friends, is truly one of the biggest reasons why we are where we are in Africa. Personal integrity is the reason why governance is not working. Do you know that? Personal integrity is the reason why governance is not working. Because the men and women who go on to serve at that level, where they were on their own as individuals, interacting with communities, with families, within even their workplace or their businesses, they didn't build a culture of personal integrity. And so they became promoted into places of governance. They carried themselves, they carried their unfounded self, for lack of a better word, or their not deeply rooted self into government. And we are beneficiaries of what we have refused to build at the personal integrity level. What is the next line of action for everyone who is listening to me today? Because whether you like it or not, you're not going to remain static. Where you are today is an opportunity for you to serve and deploy yourself. But that wherever you are at is transient. You're growing, you're moving. Things will move, whether you like it or not. It's the law of nature. Nobody remains at one place. And that would mean that today, dear Africans, young, middle-aged, and old alike, you have an opportunity to reevaluate your entire personal integrity system and begin to put in place what it requires to be the African you want to see, the African you want to interact with, the African you want to do business with, the African you want to lead you. This is the time to begin to make yourself that African. It's an individual responsibility as it's a collective responsibility. That means where I am in my corner, where I'm at in my corner, my job is to become the version of the African I want to interact with on a daily basis in the marketplace, in the workplace, in governance, in education, in family, in social settings, in religious settings. I need to become the version of that African who has personal integrity and is not going to blink by any percentage whatsoever, with an understanding that integrity is 100% or nothing. I did listen to one of the past ex-ministers from Nigeria who has sat at different portfolios. And she says to me, she said, it's easy to call yourself a person with integrity when all the amount of money you sign on your table in governance is maybe $5 million. So it's easy to say, well, I have integrity, I won't touch it. But the minute it becomes $5 billion, $10 billion, $50 billion. She says, if you begin to think about how that you must be mad to not take care of yourself from seeing all this money fly, she said, you never had integrity in the first place. Your financial threshold was just jostled. And that statement was very striking for me because it's easy, quote unquote, as she was saying, $5 million, you look away and say, oh, please, it's government money, I'm not going to touch it. $10 million, you look away. Then $10 billion comes in. You begin to fidget and say, how can $10 billion be passing and I'm not even going to take something for myself? Or 50 billion. She said, if that crosses your heart, you were never a person of integrity in the first place. So it means discarding all the times you turned your eye away from $5 million, $10 million. Because like they always say, every human being has a price. That's a statement of, it's one of the most deceptive statements I've had to really teach people about. It's one of the most deceptive statements, that every human being has a price. Where's the place of personal integrity? That means that we are a people who believe that if you score 80 to 90% in integrity, you are doing okay. But that's not integrity. That means we didn't understand it in the first place. That's why it's okay for us to make statements like every human being has a price. And when you get to their price, they will bulge. And so you know what that does? It weakens our value systems and attempt to prevent us from building people who are formidable. And at every point in time, we stand for the truth and stand for the truth alone. Because we have passed around propaganda like, well, everybody has a price. And people have come to believe that irrespective of the values and the principles and the beliefs you hold there, once a particular area is gotten to that is your path or your peak, you will bulge. It's a deceptive statement that eats into the society, eats into family, eats into education, and it makes us raise people who are weak in terms of integrity. And these are the same people who will elect into governmental offices and expect them to be people who are accountable. How? If the foundations were meant to build in a person, personal integrity has been designed to make them feel like you have a flaw, you have a price. Just do what you can. Does this make sense to a lot of us? Some of us run schools, some of us run churches, some of us run centers, some of us run all kinds of things. And you see, certainly these things have been ingrained in the DNA of our raising system or of our equipping system, or for lack of a better word, of our mentoring or educational system, that we are raising the people who are weak in terms of personal integrity. Now we live in a world where, or in an Africa where integrity is not celebrated. In fact, the more you decide to be somebody with integrity, you are mocked at, you are laughed at, you are called all kinds of names. And that's our educational system, our societal system. And then we're expecting the same society and educational system to produce leaders who have personal integrity enough to deliver for us the Africa we want. How? How? And I'm stating all of this here because I know seated in this room today are policymakers, whether now or in the future. Seated here today are people who are going to be in government or are in government, whether now or in the future. Are people who are going to be educationists, whether now or in the future. Are people who are going to be parents, whether now or in the future. You have an opportunity to mold a people to develop the right value systems, especially with personal integrity at the fore of it. You have a responsibility individually and collectively to raise those people. As basic as raising a children who would not lie about whatever is going on because they want to get their way. As basic as that. And as parents, we're here, we permit a lot of things. It's called permissive upbringing or permissive training or permissive parenting style. That's what it's called. Oh, she's just a baby. He's just a baby. He'll outgrow it. And your 2-year-old knows how to take something that is not theirs. And when you rebuke them, they cry. And you pat them and pet them. What you are doing is raising a child who will think it is okay, as a matter of fact, to be a person without integrity. They may not understand that that's the meaning of the word at the time, but they are used to taking what's not theirs without remorse. They sulk and you pamper them on top of it. And that's at parenting level. Then educational level, we have educational systems whereby the teachers are not even allowed to discipline the children because the children will the parents will bring down hell in school. And so you have schools who have value systems, but they cannot enforce their value systems because they are slaves to the parents who seemingly pay school fees. How are we going to build that Africa? Because listen, I'm saying this to say, these are the people who help us build the value systems, the families, the schools, the societies, the third level. That means anybody who enters into the society has left a family, has left a schooling system. So if we don't fix it at that level, we're already raising flawed people. What happens to then using personal integrity as a tool to delivering the Africa we want to see? The Africa we want to see would mean that there are men and women who love each other enough to see each other as equal partners, to see each other as brothers and genuine sisters, to the extent that they're able to look out for the interests of each other. Until that happens, we'll keep going around in circles. I will leave you with this today. The future of Africa requires that you and I truly enter into what you may call a wake-up call today to say, where am I at in terms of my personal integrity? What is the highest level of exposure I would get that would make me blink at my value systems? These are questions you should ask yourself. Don't wait till you become great. Don't wait till the big opportunities come knocking at your door. Don't wait till, literally, do not wait. Every opportunity of your life will be an avenue to reveal to you what's going on inside your heart. What you decide to do with it is up to you. It's either it weakens your personal integrity system or it solidifies it. I remember one time I went to I don't want to say an organization now. It was a meeting between some people. And I know that in that meeting, there were subtle conversations going on about the roles each person was going to play and what they were going to get in terms of monetary reward. How that they were indirectly trying to elicit an action from us on the strength of the money they were going to pay or give, as the case may be. It was subtle. Most of these conversations will not be direct. They will not tell you, give me this and I'll give you that. Well, when you get to a certain levels of conversation, it will be that upfront. What is in it for me? I'm sure you hear all of that. But I was in this meeting where it was subtle because the people who were there were strong and powerful people. Nobody was going to be bossed around. Nobody was going to be told what to do and how to do it. But here comes an undertone, subtle. We want it done this way, and this is what we're going to offer for that. And may I be honest, it was good compensation system. I found myself looking at the other people who were there and trying to just watch the body language in the room. Personal integrity. I was trying to watch the body language in the room because, of course, I was also in the room. Men and women alike of Africa, mostly visionaries with visions and desires to see the Africa we want. And as I looked through the room, it dawned on me we have a problem. As I looked around the room, from men to women, around the entire table, I knew we have a problem. Because these are people who are passionate about this continent. And they're deeply and actively involved at different levels of fixing, of rallying, of equipping, or raising, or mentoring, or teaching, or even advocacy. Different levels. Yet, in a room behind closed doors, your personal integrity was about to be tested. And I could see clearly 84% of the room failed. 84. I wish you understood what I was saying. This one, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. So aside everything I do around Africa, the greatest superpower I have is my partnership with Jesus. And how that my partnership with Jesus has shaped who I am and who I'm becoming. So on the strength of my love for him and my work and relationship with him, it has molded me to even become things I would ordinarily not become if I didn't have him. I think that's the advantage of being a believer, because the value systems of Jesus are clearly written, clearly defined, clearly stated. If you follow them clearly, you will be a person of personal integrity. And it hurt me because I was in a room of people who possibly share the same faith, yet gallant falling. Then it begs the question, who then is going to save others? I ask you, all of you who are on this call, about 24 of you from different parts of the world, from Omonewa to Watiu to Lawson to Adedamola to Adefunke to Ayowone to Dalitso to Dakpo to Emmanuel to Feromi to Benga to Lepatrice to Olabode to Oluwa Demilon to Oluwatobi to Oye Femilore to Tapewa to Temilola to Yusuf to Adepelumi to Ezekiel to Shego. Who is going to make a difference? Who? For how long will continue to cover and pamper and conceal the very things that have kept us where we are for the longest time? Don't you realize this lack of personal integrity that got us here? That the colonizers were about to leave, they inserted something called neo-colonialism, a system to make brothers go against brothers. A system to make you, who is an African like me, at my own expense, because you want something done, throw me under the bus. How did slavery start? People were willing to be slave drivers. Personal integrity. 400 years ago. And we're still recycling the same thing. But this time, it's now more advanced. So, the wake-up call here today is go home and begin to build out your personal integrity quotient. Africa needs it. Africa depends on you for a better Africa. Thank you, and God bless you.